Welcome back, everyone, to this behind the scenes look at Shrimp of the House Recall, part, what are we on, 5? I just kind of had a brain fart there. Wait, really? Yeah, part 5, God. This is where my mind is right now. We're here in part 5. And this is page 21. It's sort of, this part has been, I've been flying through this part, which is extremely refreshing. But as I'm nearing the end of it, okay, you know what? Let's go make all these bones invisible so that I don't have to deal with the stupid poke through. Let's see. Visible off. Oops. There. So now I don't have to worry about any inappropriateness. Thanks to the stupid poke through. The idea is the pants weren't designed for this figure. So to compensate, there's a smoothing modifier on them. But it sort of shows the poke through. Every time I go to move it, shows what's poking through, which is most of the figure. Since the doors are slightly transparent and I don't want to see Allison yet, let's park her in one of these invisible folders. Jackson. So I'm struggling what to do with these last 4 pages, and it's not that I'm struggling story-wise. Let me turn Alex around so I can see what I'm working with. It's sort of the issue is that I'm suddenly realizing that this isn't going to end, or at least, you know, if I just keep going without really thinking about this, I'm going to hit page 24 without a decent end to this part. It's going to be sort of a weird in the middle kind of thing. So I'm sort of struggling with how to play this out. So that I sort of reach kind of an end point at page 24 that allows page 1 in the next part to be kind of a starting point. So what I'm trying to do is give Alex sort of a slumped over look. Oops. I guess it. Okay. And speaking of struggles, I'm also struggling with like how much to say here, because it's at a point where some of the stuff I've sort of had, oh yeah, that actually looks good. So I don't want him slumped, but he doesn't. But he's got to look not so straight. Since I sort of had an epiphany on the kind of the details of Alex's progression here. Speaking of poke through, his fingers are going through the pants, so we've got to bend. No, actually, I think I can do that with a twist, right? Yeah, okay. No, actually, that doesn't look good. So let's bend it out like planning. So it's the idea is that it's kind of like where we, the audience, know David isn't going to die. We know his shrinking is a pre-planned thing and not something that's it's spontaneous and out of control and all that stuff. I'm still the idea is still putting him in a tortured place because he doesn't know. So it's sort of the similar. It's sort of I'm putting Alex through sort of the same thing, except we, the audience, don't know if he's going to pass this class or fail. So it's some of the details. I'm a little nervous on trying to watch what I'm going to say. Let's see. I think I got to make this uniform. The let's see, collapse all. It's sort of the color difference. I think that's the ambient parameter under the surfaces tab. Um, I'll show you what I mean. Let's see, structure. So this house follows sort of an early way of thinking where each room, the four walls, are individual pieces. So I've got the walls listed under a structure, under a group called structure, and then they're in groups under that based on the room. So if I go to the master bedroom and then find the front wall, come into surfaces and expand it, I've got different surfaces defined for different parts of the wall. So I think default is the outside of the wall on this particular piece. Wall 1 is the inside, and then this molding 1 is that faux molding strip you see on the inside of the wall. So what I've got is, okay. Yeah, so when I render in OpenGL, the lighting does funny things, and sometimes when I'm looking at a wall sideways, if the ambient color is set to triple zeros, it ends up looking objects end up looking kind of black and they lose the color if I'm looking at an angle like that. So with OpenGL, in the Shrimp of the House series, I'll often set it to like either 50s or 90, which I'm going to cancel. For some reason, turning off ambient strength doesn't do that, but I think glossiness might also, yeah, the glossiness will also, let's see, but the glossiness kind of looks odd in some cases, so I usually just do it through, so I usually keep the colors solid using the ambient tab, um, but for some reason at some point in using this model, I altered the ambient tab on one wall, one segment, but not the whole house. And since I like the darker color that the full black ambient uses, what I'm going to do is let's go living room, front wall. Is the default tab. So I'm going to set the ambient to 0 so it matches. Okay, yeah, then we got to do the roof too. Eaves? Yeah, okay. There we go. So now the color will match. What we're going to do is, let's turn these guys around. Doing this scene outside is going to be problematic because I don't have a full universe. Let's focus on Jackson. So, see if I turn it away from the house, there's no neighborhood. I do have a neighborhood mocked up. I mocked it up for the babysitter story, but it became such a nightmare to work with. That I've kind of cut it out and never went back. This pose is good for standing, but he's going to look like he's walking. He's kind of shuffling along. So rather than put in the neighborhood or go through the time of rendering a still image to put back there, I usually try to avoid it, work around it, that sort of thing. So I've parked one house on the other side of the street for scenes like this, and then I'll try and carefully frame this so that when it goes to the page, I can trim off. Oops. He's slumping so much he looks shorter than Jackson right now. So it's, I think, before I got sidetracked with um, or, now I'm getting sidetracked again. The issue I'm having is do I want Jackson? Do I want these two positioned like this, or do I want to swap them? Because oftentimes I'll stage a scene and then realize that I probably should have put the characters on the other side of each other. Um, Let me think. Uh, yeah, okay, this is what we want. So again, before I get distracted for the second time there, it's sort of we're kind of following Alex on his own tortured journey over this exam. So, I don't know how much of a surprise, but like right here, it's sort of like this is going to be at the point where, like, once he's taken the exam, and actually, is this page? Okay, no, this is going to be number 9. So it's like at the point here where, like, he's taken the exam, he's going to be tortured with the idea that he didn't do good enough on it. It's sort of like the realization now that it's over. Yeah, I didn't get the grade I needed, that sort of thing, until he actually gets the grade back, and he knows for sure. It's sort of we're in the period where, like, it's over for him. Now he's just got to wait until he gets the grade. But until then, he's telling himself he didn't do good enough. Let's see. No. Already. And going kind of way back to when I was talking about how I'm not sure how to play off these 4 pages to end this part. What I'm sort of doing here is kind of hinting to it, but making it vague enough what their conversation is. What I'm hoping to do is drag this out. Not drag it out, but layer scale 34 is to have enough of a conversation. Oh yeah, see the missing world gets cut off. This is what I want to do. So the conversation gets stretched out so that it's at the end of page 24 where he actually says, where he actually throws it out. that he didn't do good enough. It's sort of initially it's going to be alluded to, but not really mentioned. That's. And let me slide this over to make sure that I'm on the edge. Okay, yep. Oops. Okay. Shoot. So the plan to stretch this out, they're going to run into Allison and have a little bit of a talk with her before they come back to this and finish this conversation. Okay, what's going on? I'm messing this up, huh? Invert. Okay, I can see the black border now. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to zoom in and instead it zooms out. Okay. Yeah, the teacher graded already? No. I just know, right? And similarly, I don't know if this scene will I can actually stretch this to 4 pages before Alex kind of before Alex actually puts words to his thought that he didn't do good enough in the exam. This gets annoying. None, edit, paste as. Which, if I can only get 3 pages out of this, or even 2, it's alright. because I do have an idea for a filler scene I can pop in. Where David's at the dinner table practicing what he's going to say to the what he wants to say to the kids. Oh, he says new layer. It's the idea. The idea I've got isn't really important to the story, so if I don't need it, I won't. Let's see. Just know right. I won't actually. What the heck? I won't actually go and make up the scene. It'll never get made. Or on the other hand, it could. I could decide later if it does. If it doesn't make it here, I could decide later to kind of pop it in early in the next part. Just the other way. Like I said, it would. The idea of him practicing. I think it would be a good filler speech, but it's not really in a good filler scene. But in my head, at least right now, it's not a scene that's really necessary. It's not a scene that I'm sure. I don't know if it would really add anything to plan on it. But on the other hand, now that I'm talking about it and voicing it, it does feel like it should be included. Let's see. And I think is it been throughout this part, the videos I've done through this part, I've been talking about how I'm beginning to think I'm beginning to think of how long this piece should be, or I'm trying to get in my head some idea of how long this will be. And I know I've kind of mentioned that I was hoping to wrap it up in 6 parts, while sort of always planning, or sort of always had it in the back of my head that it could be 7. And now I'm thinking this is just too much. Now I'm no, I'm not thinking this is too much. I'm Now I'm thinking, like, at this point I'm thinking I'll breeze through part 6 easily and move into a part 7 no problem. No, not that one. This one. Control C, and we will edit paste as a new layer. Oops. So wait. There we go. Control C. So yeah, coming up in the next part, I sort of had an idea of how to it struck me today how to really torture Alex and really sort of like drive that knife into him in regards to this belief that he's failed, that it's over, he's failed history and he won't graduate. And again, I'm not spoiling the ending, I'm just talking about his thoughts in this moment. You'll have to wait and see if he's really if he's really failed it or not, but let's see. I will say I am planning sort of a sideways conclusion. Oh, that's great. Layer size. Let's cut. Here we go. that works. I think what I'm going to do is, oops, let's split this manually. There we go. Actually, I just moved that. I'm not happy with. Okay, that is better. Okay. So here, what I want to do is have them move in and turn them. So that I can use the house for the backdrop for them too. Let's see. So I think it just dragged all his bones. That's weird. Straighten him up just a little bit. Oops. There we go. Even though he's not in the scene, it's bothering me that he's not looking that way. See, the house is long enough where I can turn it kind of that much and not. He's slumping a little too much too. Okay. Let's see. Layer transform. So see, here's where I get to stretch this out a bit by having them interact with her. Um, let's see, come up with the best way to do it. And it made me miss. I think this scene is partly because I guess it was last night I get thinking about sort of the dynamics and the relationships between the siblings. Let's see. And it's for the most part at this point in time, we tend to see if there's interaction with the siblings with Allison, it's almost exclusively with Jackson. And with Al, and the same thing with Alex. It was, I think, since Allison started middle school, junior high, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is to you, um, she's kind of stopped hanging out with Aiden, so he's become the loner. But we don't really see her and Alex unless it's by accident or something. Open his layers. And the funny thing is, even though I've established this sort of hero worship, I'm not even thinking here. Later, I scaled it wrong. It's 33, not 34. I sort of have this recurring theme that Aiden has kind of a hero worship over Alex. We never really see those two interacting all that much. That's right. Edit cut. So in some respects, I want to do a scene in the next part that kind of puts Alex and Aiden together. And sort of in another respect, I'm trying to think of sort of a story, a subplot, something for a future book. Oops. That involves the two of them interacting. It involves him interacting with Aiden. Even though I think with Alex moving on from high school. Yeah, see, and this is what I mean about the ambient color, is at the angle, the siding is darker than when it's spot on. Oh, well. He made me miss the bus. You know what, I'm gonna let's italicize the me, so it's like he's stressed. So it's like it makes you think the reader thinks he's stressing it. And he made me miss the bus, so we had to walk home. Oops, let's go favorites. The idea is I don't want to turn her too much. I'll have to take, yeah, actually I can turn her that much. I'll have to take Alex out of the scene, so let's collapse all. There we go. Actually, no, I was good. Let's change her pose a little bit. A little bit. And hopefully hopefully I can do this visually. This one. How about thumb? No, I'm gonna have to do thumb manually. Down this one. Okay, that might be what this might play out. I think it's gonna be bent. I need the finger. And then let's give her a little bit of a smile. Let's do. There we go. I think this will get across what I'm trying to do. Quote at the library. There we go. Let's see. So I think what was I kind of saying before I got swept up into that? So I'm thinking of, well, I'm trying to think of, well, I'm trying to brainstorm a scenario or a storyline or something that has Alex and Aiden interacting a little more in the future. The hard part is that with Alex moving on from high school onto his future, oh, yeah, okay, she's doing the quote thing there. Then his natural progression is that he should actually, his long term, he'll actually be kind of drifting away from his siblings a little more. So edit cut, select on edit paste as a new layer. And I guess in the department of brainstorming, these are ideas I don't really know if I'll go with or not, but I've previously mentioned how eventually I want to move them into a new house. This, this never looks right to me. Did I go too? Nope. I guess it's fine. The idea is that like eventually it is my thinking is that eventually, when Alex moves out, I think they buy sort of a family compound and end up oops, no, I want scenes. Let's collapse all. To keep Alex on the canvas. Okay, no, I haven't seen Alex. So what I'm going to do with Alex, I'm going to reposition him since we didn't actually see him here. So yeah, so it's the idea to keep him in the on the canvas. When he's ready to move out, it's going to be next door, and that's going to be the impetus for David and Liz moving into a new house. Oh shoot! And the thinking, sort of like, while it's way, way too early to really think about it, the thought was, this is number 14, right? Yep. The thought that was that David and Liz would end up buying a smaller house with 3 bedrooms instead of 4 in order to dash Jackson's dreams of getting his own room. So the idea is like they buy a new house and he still has to share a room with Aiden. But again, in another brainstorming idea I had, I was thinking it does sort of give a possibility if they buy a new house and Jackson does finally get his new room. Like, it could lend to to like a B story in that story where, like, of all people, Aiden starts missing Jackson. Like, not sharing the room with Jackson, he's suddenly lonely and misses him. and it sort of ends up in this comedic thing where it's like he's trying to make friends with Jackson again, even though they're sort of antagonistic. It's not what you expect. Like, you'd think Aiden would be as happy to get out of that room as Jackson wants to. I just wanted to be alone for a little bit. Let's see. I just wanted to be alone for a little bit, okay? I don't need Jackson bothering me, and I'd rather not have you bothering me too. Yeah, and as I'm finishing up this page and thinking about the next one, I'm really beginning to think that the practice speech scene I was talking about earlier might actually make an appearance here. In which case it would end up being page 21, and this one would get moved to page 22, because this will become page 22. Oh, do I already have that picture? Yep. Okay. Player scale. Oh, 34. Yeah, see. And I can end up framing the shot so that you don't see the lack of universe here. Oops, layer image size. And I think while I've been using this story and the videos I've been making with it to brainstorm ideas for the future, um, I am looking at a long ways off. So there's no telling how many of these ideas end up making it to future stories or how many get reworked, changed, abandoned. Anyways, something else comes through. Because, sort of looking back at where this series has been already, this is story number 11. And here I am, like, probably like 3.5 years since working on the first one. um, the point at which Alex, the idea is where going forward, I want to have Alex get married early and have a kid. At the point that comes along, I'm looking, at another 10 story, another 10 stories before, the kid is born and is actually um, in universe, so to speak. So, like, another 3.5 years. Well, how did you know? Did the teacher grade it already? No, I just know, all right? What are you two doing home so late? What are you up to? Alex didn't come to the bus, so I had to go find him, and he made me miss the bus, so we had to walk home. Oh, were you at the library again, or are you just trying to avoid Dad? I wanted to be left. I wanted to be. I might drop that. I'll drop that. Just hold on. I wanted to be alone for a little bit. Okay. I don't need Jackson bothering me, and I'd rather not have you bothering me too. Okay, that line is gonna be. Let's go. Control Z will undo the merge down. We're gonna cut the just. I want it to be, and we're gonna add a left alone. I don't need Jackson bothering me, and I'd rather not have you bothering me too. Hold on. Can I take that? Okay. In which case, I don't really need to trim this down for that little adjustment. I can just, I think that's right. Okay. So that is going to be page 20, 21, possibly page 22. Let's save, flatten, and we're going to export to page 21. So that's either page 21 or 22. I hope that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time, which may or may not be in this part.